Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Kotlin series. In this video, I'll be teaching you about if statements. Alright everybody, welcome back to another episode in the Kotlin series. Now we're going to be moving on to a new section of this course where I teach you about something called control flow, which is a way of controlling the flow of your program, making it so that your programs are more dynamic because it can take different paths of execution, okay? I'll be explaining that much more in a second. And like I said, this is a new section, so what I want to do is organize this a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is go to source, right click it, and do new package. And a package is just a folder, so we're just going to give it a name. We'll say control flow. There we go. So this is going to give our project a little more structure because we can organize it a little bit better now. So anything that's related to control flow we'll put inside of here, all right? And then what we can do is we can make another package. We'll call it basics, and then we'll do hold control and just select all these ones down here that we had before and move them into basics, and then click OK. And there we go, everything has been moved. Awesome. So now go ahead and right click control flow, the new package that we created, and go ahead and do new Kotlin file, and we're going to give it a name of if statements. Alright, so here we go. So we have this new file created called if statements within the control flow package, and you can see here that it automatically put this line at the top, package control flow. So whenever you have a Kotlin file that's in a package, you simply put the package that it's part of, so package control flow. And we're going to be learning much more about this in the future when I teach you about packages specifically. So just for now, know that if you see something like this, it's probably part of that package, right? So what are if statements? If statements are simply a way to make decisions based on conditions, okay? So up to this point, our programs have been pretty simple. For the most part, they're not dynamic at all, meaning that they run the same code every single time that you run the program. But with control flow and if statements in general, we can control how our program flows, meaning that we can run different pieces of code depending on conditions of our program, okay? So we could say, oh, if Bob is 23 years old, then run this code. If Sally is 25 years old, then run this other piece of code. We could have decisions being made in the code itself so that our programs are more dynamic depending on what the variables have and other conditions of the program, okay? So let me just give you an actual concrete example here. Let's say we have an age variable, so val age is equal to 12, and we want to make a voting program. So we want to make it so anyone who's 18 or above, they can vote. If you're less than that, then you cannot vote and you need to go do your homework. So we can do that by doing if, and I'll explain this in a second. We'll say age is greater than or equal to 18. We're going to make a branch here, and we're going to say print you can now vote. Woo! So it's saying if age is greater than or equal to 18, then run this piece of code or any code that's within these within this code block here. So anything in between the curly brackets is a code block, and you can run any code that's in that code block if this condition is true. If it's false, it's not going to run anything in here, okay? So this is the anatomy of an if statement. You're using the if keyword, which is a special keyword in Kotlin that Kotlin uses to know that you're making an if statement. And then you're going to have an opening and a closing parentheses here. And then within that opening and closing parentheses, you're going to have a condition, which is simply something that evaluates to true or false, which is in other words a boolean, okay? So condition, something that evaluates to true or false. So in this case, the condition is age greater than or equal to 18? Pretty simple condition, right? And then after the condition, we have an opening curly bracket, and then on the other end, we have a closing curly bracket. And in between any of that, I called it a code block. This is a code block, and you can have as much code in between those two curly brackets as you want. So we could say something like age is equal to really old, and then we could print out, damn you old son. And what's the problem here? It's a val, right? So we can change it to a var, and now that's valid. But the point is that you can run any amount of code within this code block here as long as the condition's true, okay? And I don't know about you, but this is pretty powerful compared to the programs that we've been making so far. Now our programs can make decisions. As long as you can come up with conditions, you can make decisions in your programs now. Now let me go ahead and give you another example of an if statement in Kotlin so we can make another decision. So let's have another variable, favorite book is equal to Harry Potter. Now we can write another if statement by doing if, press tab to autocomplete, and then in here you put the condition. So I'll be teaching you in the next episodes how to actually come up with conditions by using Boolean logic and comparison operators and Boolean expressions and all that fun stuff. So I'll just give you a really basic one here. We could say favorite book is equal to Harry Potter. So if your favorite book is equal to Harry Potter, then we're going to say print line, that's my favorite book too, loser. All right, so if favorite book is equal to Harry Potter, then print out, that's my favorite book too, loser. Now let's go ahead and run this program so we can see what the result is of these if statements here. So let's right click this and do run if statements.kt. Okay, so the output is that's my favorite book too. And why is that? So why isn't it printing out this one here? And that's simply because age is equal to 12, which is less than 18 and definitely not equal to 18. So this condition here is false. So it's not going to run any of the code in between these opening and closing curly brackets. So what it's going to do is literally just skip this entire code block and just go to the next line when it's running the program, okay? So it's going to come here and say, okay, assign Harry Potter to favorite book. That's what that variable is going to contain now. And it's going to reach this point and say, okay, is favorite book equal to Harry Potter? And of course they are equal just by looking at it. So now it's going to run all of the code in between these curly brackets here. And it says, print out, that's my favorite book too, loser. And it did. That's exactly what it did. So if you just go up here and change this real quick to 120, now it's obviously going to satisfy this condition here. So if you rerun this, it should print out both messages. And there we go. You can now vote. Woo, awesome. So let me show you guys something else you can do to make this a little more advanced. So let's get rid of this one here. We'll go back to this first example here. So let's say that we want to make it so that if they're greater than or equal to 18, you print out you can now vote. But if they're not, then you run other pieces of code and say like, go do your homework, little kid, or something like that, right? What we can do here is we can, make another if statement. We could say if age is less than 18. Which is the opposite of this, right? So greater than or equal to 18 and then less than 18. So that's the opposite. So if this one's false, then this one definitely has to be true, right? So let's go and write our code. So we'll say, go do your homework, little buddy. So now let's go and run this and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like it's working. So first it's going here and giving age the value of 120. Then it's going to evaluate this. Okay, it's true. So it's going to print out this message here, right? And then now it's going to go to the next part and say, okay, is age less than 18? That's false, so it's going to skip over this, and then the program is going to end because there's nothing else to run after that. Now, if we change this to 12, obviously we're going to get the opposite result. We're going to say, go do your homework, little buddy. And yes, it does. Perfect. Now, there's actually a way to improve this, and this is called an else statement. So if we just go and cut this by doing Control X, and we delete this, we can go on the end of our original if statement here and add else using the else keyword and then open up a new curly bracket and it'll put it at closing one automatically for you. And then in between those opening and closing curly brackets, you simply put the code that you want to run. And as you can see here, there's no condition. So what this is doing is saying, okay, if this first condition is true, then run the code inside of here and forget about this. But if this is false, then forget about this one because this is false, but then just run the else statement. So run the code inside of the else, which is go do your homework, little buddy. So the else statement is something that you can add on to your if statement so that if the if statement is false, you can have another piece of code that runs by default. So instead of having two different if statements, we're combining it into one little thing here, which is nice. It has this built-in feature called else. These are else statements, okay? So if we just go ahead and rerun this, we should get the same result. There we go. So this one is false, so it's not going to run anything inside of here. So this one by default will be run instead. And this is really the idea of branching code. So your code now has two different possibilities for code that it can run. It can run this piece of code or this piece of code. And you can really visualize the program here as someone walking down a path. Let's say that they're walking down a path and they reach a dead end, but they can either go left or right. So the person has to make a decision, which is a condition that leads them to either choose left or right, okay? And these are also referred to as branches, like branches of a tree or something like that. This is one branch and this is another branch, okay? So these are going to get a little more advanced in the next episode where I showed you guys about else if statements. And what this will allow us to do is take our if statements and else statements and essentially combine other conditions into it to make these even more complex and add more branches. We can add a bunch of paths to our decision tree if you want to, okay? Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop it here because I don't want this video to get too long. Hopefully you found this very interesting, so I recommend that you guys now go make some programs of your own, see what kind of cool if statements you can create to give your program some more dynamic feel. So thanks for watching, everybody. So that's it for this video, everybody. I really hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to also check the description below for important links to code and other resources, but also really important, join our Discord. We have a big community of over 5,000 programmers, and it's a place where you can find new friends or get help on any code that you're stuck on. If you want to support what I do on this channel, please consider hitting the join button below, and this will allow you to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, but there are different tiers to choose from if you want to. For anyone that becomes a member on my channel, you get a special rank on my Discord server, early access to new videos, and you can just see yourself on the screen right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. Thank you so much. And that's it. Peace.